Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good night. Good evening. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hey there.
Hello.
Welcome. Happy Friday. Welcome to The Outlook. We're excited to have y'all join in with us. Go on ahead and share this if you haven't. We have some juicy topics tonight. I think it's juicy. Ellie. I don't know. Go on ahead. While folks are coming in, I guess we could just kind of introduce ourselves so people know who's talking, who's on the screen. I'll start. My name is Jody. I am happy to be moderating tonight with all these beautiful people on screen. I'm also a part of the media ministry and the drama ministry and the women's ministry here at Bethany Baptist Church.
Hi, everybody. Kevin English. I am a part of the Men's Safe House Ministry, Fresh Ministry, and I think that's it.
I'm Deacon LeBou, Deacon Hayward LeBou. I am on the deacon board, and I am also in the choir ministry.
It's you, Sister Jane.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jane Ellen Miller. I think I've been at Bethany for about 20 years now. I'm a part of Generations, BPA, and the Concierge Ministry.
Okay. What's BPA for the folks who don't know?
Bethany Professional Association. So just as a quick plug, a shameless plug, every third Thursday we have a panel discussion on things that people can do for their businesses or if they're working in the corporate world.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kim Marriott. I've been going to Bethany all my life. And I'm part of the Fresh Ministry and social media ministry.
Great. So excited to have y'all. Hey, Rolando. Hey, Sister Sandra. Hey, Keith. Keith is like our unofficial usher. He's at every service. He's at every internet service. So we're going to start off tonight talking a little bit about we're going to move from the election to the presidency. And what y'all's thoughts are on that. Last time we were here, we talked a little bit about the elections, the importance of voting and all of that. And so how do y'all feel? I know last time we spoke, I feel like tensions were kind of high. It was a lot of emotion, a lot of like mixed feelings around everything that was going on. But how are you feeling now, a few months after, in the new president?
Can I go on that?
Sure.
I feel like I can breathe just a little bit. It's not as tense and everything like that. I know we might, talk about it more, but I feel like it's a sense of normalcy that's back now. Especially with the press conferences that we have, and not hearing a lot of alternative facts. So it's good in that sense. So the atmosphere for me has been feeling light, and I'm happy that we have a new president in office.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin. It seems less stressful to me. I'm not hearing the mean tweet of the day. The tenor of the conversation coming out of the White House is more unifying. And we'll talk about all the challenges that still remain. But just the daily, what in my view was very negative rhetoric that we were just constantly bombarded with has been tapped down. Yeah. Not gone away, but it's been tapped down.
Definitely.
I feel like we were able to. Sorry. I feel like we were able to take a political break, so to speak, and just be relieved that we're not focusing so much on negative rhetoric coming from the White House specifically. And they do have an action plan now about what should be doing what we should be doing about COVID. And I feel like that process has been pretty clear for the most part. So I'm pleased with how the administration is handling that.
No, I would probably echo everything that everyone has said. I know that my CNN watching has definitely gone down since Biden has taken over. President Biden has taken over, and that's been kind of nice, But I'm also still watchful because I think that, we have to continue to remain watchful of what's happening in our government. I think that President Biden is seems to be a very decent man, and so I'm looking forward to what the next 4 year brings. But I'm still watchful of what's going to happen in 2024, because Trump is gone, but he's not. He's still around.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, he's not gone. There's actually a group, very conservative Republicans, they call CPAC, not sure what that stands for, who began their, I don't know if it's a week-long or the weekend meeting. And when you look at who's there, it's a lot of the current Republican senators. Their main speaker is Donald Trump. They just as I was watching a little bit earlier, very negative comments about some of the more progressive senators who happen to be Democrats. And even Mitch McConnell yesterday saying he's totally behind Trump if he runs in 2024. So they've already sent out their signal, and which is why we cannot take our foot off the gas in terms of being vigilant on this. So it's quiet, but it's not. They are working. They are seriously working.
Yeah, absolutely. And the CPAC, I just looked up, stands for Conservative Political Action Conference.
Yeah.
It's for those who don't know. Another question just came to mind on what do you think the church's role is in this social political climate? Because when we think about the civil rights movement, the church played such a big part in that, and Dr. Martin Luther King and many others played such a big part in politics back then. And it kind of seems like we're very divided right now, or we've shied away from it altogether and just like keep it a little bit separate. When I say we, I mean we as a church as a whole, not necessarily Bethany or, but what are your thoughts about that? And what role do we play in this social climate?
Can I touch on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, just like how you said, Jody, I think we're very divided. I feel as though like we are playing a role, but we're just not on the what do you call that? On the same side of things, or our views and how we're going about things. You have, one group, of Christians that think that Donald Trump is heaven sent. And then you have another group that doesn't think that Donald Trump has our best interests and everything like that. So with those kind of different views, we're divided in that sense. But I think that we just have to, speak out like what's right for the people as a whole, and not, people, specific agendas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Kevin, and there are divisions, and you might talk about the evangelicals with Trump, but I don't even think it's just black and white. I think it's black within our own black churches, and there's it feels like a reluctance to really delve into the politics.
Yeah,
but I don't think that we can shy away from it because it impacts everything we do, whether we're talking about healthcare, whether we're talking about social justice, whether we're talking about rights for immigrants, right? Whether we're talking about sharing the wealth. I think that we can't shy away from it. And I think that as individuals, we have to make up our own minds, but to make sure that people are aware so that they can make informed decisions. I
Yes.
think that the church does play a role in that. And I think about when we were able to join as a church, Bishop would often bring different people from different political spectrums who would sometimes be speaking to us, or he would even speak to us. And I think that whole part that he likes to say about you have faith, but you have common sense. And so you have to have the knowledge and stay aware. And I think the church plays a role in that, in making sure that we are informed.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, you know, and that's what we saw like play out. Like a lot of people is not informed. Like most people are just like watching like one side of things and only getting their news source from, you know, like just, you know, one side. And, you know, you can't really make a well-informed decision or, you know, have a well thought out, you know, opinion on things with only looking at things from one view.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Bring awareness and also starting conversations with people of all ages, because as we can see, a lot of these things that we're seeing aren't new. And so it's good for the generations to come together, especially within church, because, you know, we're all there. Grandma, uncles, aunties, all the kids coming up. It's good for us to come together and convene and have these conversations about where we stand and what we can do for future generations.
Yeah.
I was going to say that I found myself becoming sometimes very frustrated because I felt that, you know, in the 60s, the church played such a prevalent role in a lot of the protesting and the social marches, but for me, it felt as though we were not taking, when I say we, I mean the church, was not taking the lead in some of the marches, to me.
Yeah.
And I felt that we needed to do that. Now, maybe the role of the church in society at large is different, but I just found that the white conservatives seem to always play a part in white conservative churches always are very vocal and very stand out, very strong for what they're committed to. But we, as a black church, as a church in general, I think we have difficulty these days. I think taking a stand and being a focal part of this movement. So I found myself at times becoming very frustrated because there were times when I felt that, okay, we need to get together as a church and take a stand and be a part of this motion. And I felt like we were not. So that was just my perspective. So
no, yeah, I definitely think we've been playing it safe and kind of, you know, trying to be politically correct in many ways. There was some church activity, but I think it was more so like down south when we think of Reverend Ralph Warnock and his election. And there were a couple other like church leaders who were elected in this past election. So there was some activity, but it seems like it was down south. It was very siloed, and it wasn't like nationwide. We didn't see the church come together nationwide to make this change like we might have seen in the past, which I agree. It's a little disappointing. It's a little frustrating. But I would love to see us, like Kimmy said, get that intergenerational mix going when it comes to these issues and being able to learn from one another, which is why I appreciate this talk tonight, because we have an intergenerational conversation happening and we can get different perspectives from each other, because I think it's important that we learn from each other as well. I did see a question in the comments. Somebody said, why does Roe versus Wade separate the church? I don't know if anybody wants to weigh in on that, but it pretty much is the law about abortion, making abortion legal.
What was the question again?
Why does Roe versus Wade separate the church? And Roe versus Wade was the court case where the Constitution of the United States protects a pregnant woman's liberty to choose to have an abortion without excessive government restriction. Mm-hmm. So pretty much I guess what this question is asking, why does that concept of abortion really separate us? And that does seem to be a pretty big driving factor when you talk to a lot of folks about choosing between Trump versus this person, Republican versus Democrat. Abortion thing seems to like rise to the top. And he said a lot of Christians vote on this topic. Yeah, that seems to be something that
they do. Sometimes I feel it's a false narrative, mm-hmm. right? and that there's something else underlying why people fall either way. If we're really about the church, then this goes against our principles, right? Mm-hmm. Then people have whatever their situation is in their personal life and their personal beliefs, which may be in conflict with their beliefs in God. Mm-hmm. And so I think more than separating the church, I think it separates people and the conflict that you may have within in terms of your beliefs, this is right or wrong, and then what a personal situation may be.
Yeah.
Right. I think it also, despite the right or wrong in your belief in that with God, I think people bristle at the notion that the majority of the people, not all, but many in terms of the law who speak to be against it tend to be male. And so I think that, and in particular, white male, and I think that women bristle at the fact of being told what to do with their bodies. Yeah, that's always kind of an interesting narrative to me, mm-hmm. because it's not just you're talking about another human too, mm-hmm. right? But I think that people bristle at that. So I think a lot of personal emotions get commingled with what your belief in terms of what God's teachings are. Mm. So I think the church is always going to fall on God's teachings, but then there's people's personal situations. And I think more than dividing the church, it's a war within people in terms of personal beliefs.
Yeah.
I agree. Roe versus Wade, it was about abortion originally, and it also was expanded to include reproductive rights. And under that, you get better access to health care, especially if you become pregnant, if you want to plan a family, and it protects Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood at this point does do abortions. However, they also provide resources for other family planning needs, such as medicine, for prenatal medicine for when you become pregnant, different family planning, social work. So it is a program that helps communities who might not have the access. So people with not so good healthcare, and it's public. So it's an iffy kind of thing, because I think people do focus, especially people who are on the right, they focus too much on the aspect of killing children. However, we do need to focus on providing care for the children who do get here. Mm-hmm. And taking care of them also means taking care of their parents.
Yeah. I think we've heard. We've heard, I believe Pastor Nick has touched on this before, where people have this argument against protecting this life, right? Before it's born. But then when we're talking about like Black Lives Matter and all these other movements of people who are living these atrocities every day, that same kind of grace isn't given, that same kind of compassion isn't given, that those Christian values just like go out the window. It's like, okay, we care about the babies, but we don't care about y'all because y'all did this to you, or whatever reasons people give. And it's very interesting to see how we pick and choose when we want to like have these Christian values, you know?
Right. And the attack to that point about the attack on Planned Parenthood, and when they are supporting people who have a very deficient or inefficient access to health care, often that's lower income and often that's people of color, right? So to do away with a program that's going to provide some of those services that people need is is traditional in a part of our political spectrum of not really being concerned about helping to lift people up. And so they'll focus, I think, and I think this was said very well by Karen, they focus on the abortion part of what Planned Parenthood does. But Planned Parenthood mostly focuses on the Planned Parenthood part of you being that parent and having a healthy child. But it targets those who don't have access to their own physicians, et cetera. And so there's an underlying reason why they don't want that.
Yeah. Kevin, were you going to say something before?
Jody, great minds think alike, because I was going to say the same thing that because Kim, sparked that. So I was thinking about that. So we good.
Yeah.
Okay. Deacon LeBou, did you have anything on that in particular?
No. I think you guys have said it all.
Okay. So shifting gears a little bit, going back before this new presidency, the Capitol riots. So I know every time just saying it is making my blood start to boil a little bit. That was a lot. That was a lot to witness. Did y'all see it while it was happening live? What were your feelings?
Yeah, so I saw it happening live, and originally my first Facebook post was, a lot of people aren't really educated how they think that they can just overturn, like this decision. I don't understand why they're protesting. Yeah. And like 5 minutes later, things just escalated, really quickly, and for the life of me, I just couldn't understand, how are they making their way into the building? Like, where was National Guards? Like what was going on? I felt like even with that, like the National Guard was taking forever and everything like that. And it was just frustrating. It was frustrating to watch as well because, when the Black Lives Matter was protesting and everything, it was peacefully protesting. And I believe the Attorney General, had either like the police or somebody, discharged tear gas and everything, rubber bullets, and they were peacefully protesting just so that way Donald Trump could take a photo op pic, and here you have people with weapons, people that are fighting officers and everything like that, and they even make it out the building safely, not even being arrested. It took hours and days, for them just to get arrested. So it was just very frustrating to see that because it just says like they can get away with it, but we can't, and we just know like it would have been a bloodbath if it was us, so.
Yeah.
We were definitely watching a moment in history. It made me think back to when President Obama was elected, and I remember standing out in the freezing cold with my son at the Delaware train station, watching his train go as he was moving into Washington because he had just been elected, and that was such a moment in history. It reminded me of that old picture of President Lincoln with the crowd standing in front of him during his inauguration. But this was, to me, another moment in history where 200 years down the line, someone's going to be looking at this and saying, what the heck? What are these people thinking? And it makes me wonder, why in the world do these terrorists feel that they have the right to now disregard my vote or disregard the vote of millions of people that elected this president. Our votes don't count. So I that was very, very frustrating to see that happen. To see the disregard for democracy, to me, it was horrible.
And I think what we saw was their fear. I know as I watched it live, I think I just kept going, oh my God, because you're watching it and can't believe it.
Yeah.
Right? And when the Black Lives Matter are doing a peaceful protest, they had hundreds of National Guard on every single step, shoulder to shoulder, in case they tried to go to the Capitol. And in this case, with these folks, they knew, right? And part of what you're watching, and that's the, I don't know if that's the beauty, but the advantage, the disadvantage of so many cell phones and watching it live, is you saw police taking selfies with people who were breaking in while that was happening, right? You saw police gently walking people down the steps as they were coming back out. And all I'm thinking is, if that was us, they would have kicked us down those steps, right? So I think for me, and Deacon LaRue, you mentioned a point in time, and you mentioned Obama on the train, which is a pleasant history method. I'm thinking, it made me think that I knew exactly where I was when Kennedy got shot. Something else that was really an ugly, bloody stain on America. And that this like that will forever portray what our country is really about. And it's not new about trying to stop our vote. And I think it isn't that they're afraid of our vote, but they're afraid because we are powerful. And I think that's why they try in every kind of way they can, legal and illegal, to suppress the vote, whether it's through redistricting, whether it's through the removal of mailboxes, whether it's trying to make it illegal to vote on Sunday because the churches rally people to go to the vote. So those things continue. And this was just in your face, here it is, right? And the fact that it was in our face, and they've arrested congressmen, they've arrested Olympians, they've arrested police officers, military, professors, it's people's neighbors.
And that's what made it scary to me, a little bit scary too, because you don't even know who you don't necessarily know who you're fighting against. I mean, it could be my next door neighbor at that moment.
Exactly right.
I feel like we're seeing a segment of America who is just vying for Trumpism and doesn't want democracy anymore. And that's sad.
Not democracy as we know it.
Not
right. They want their democracy.
Right. Yeah. Right. And they want to silence the voices of the minority. And we can't let that happen, because we saw in Georgia the power of the minority vote. And when we band together, change can happen. So I think that was a hopeful moment in our nation. But these insurrection riots were very frustrating, because the lack of response from law enforcement was frustrating, because the National Guard in Maryland were ready to go and regulate the situation. However, they have to have a go from the FBI or someone in power, and he stalled on that. So the fact that response was delayed intentionally was very frustrating. And again, I want to go back to the protest that Colin Kaepernick did, and he's just on a football field, taking a kneel, and he gets stripped of his career, slandered, endorsements lost, for peaceful protesting, and people from the right are saying, oh, well, that's not the way to protest. Is insurrection the way to protest?
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, they talked about Kaepernick and anyone else who kneeled was disrespecting the flag, when in the past, kneeling was never a sign of disrespect. That was a genuflection, right? So they talked about that as a sign of disrespecting the American flag. But what about folks who use the American flag to break the windows? They burned the American flag. Inside, they took down the American flag and put up the flag that said Trump. So those, to me, were signs of disrespect of the American flag. But so the rhetoric continues, right? And the fact that 80 million people who voted for Trump by that rhetoric is something to be concerned about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I never forget that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and even to that, what everybody has mentioned, it's like, it was also an embarrassment too. Like, you see this happen in other countries and everything like that, but for other countries to report in, like on us, just an embarrassment. And, for our capital to almost like look like a war zone as far as like having soldiers protecting ourselves. Like, how embarrassing, is that? And to Deacon Labu's point, yes, it is a point in history that we'll definitely remember. And even when they had former President Trump impeachment trial, and you had some senators, who still, wouldn't speak out or anything, just, I saw nothing wrong. They're going to be remembered for that, so.
I hope so.
Absolutely. I mean, all we got is the decisions that our lives are made up of the decisions that we make. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to, I think, regret the decisions that they've made these past few years, and particularly the past few months, because it had effect on millions and millions of people's lives. So, we've been talking about all this politics and stuff. What do you hope will change under this new presidency? Just in general, what is it that you're hoping for moving forward?
I'm just hoping that they can just get a lot of things done, especially things that's going to, sorry for being biased, that's going to really help the Black community. We help overturn as far as like the senator to like have the numbers to like really get things done. So that's my main hope, low reparation probably. I don't know. But, we'll see. I just want them to help the Black community.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope that from this experience that we as a community will learn to band together and support the causes that we think that are important. So President Biden can't do it all by himself. I mean, I think that we definitely have to work together to see any type of change that comes forward. And so I think that I think that it would be, again, that we as a community come together and decide what it is that we want to fight for, and again, continue to move in those areas. And I think that, and going back to our earlier conversation, I think that the church has to be a part of that. This is a moral movement that we are in right now. And I think that we as a church, we should not be on separate sides. We shouldn't be, but.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I feel, I shouldn't be this crass, but I feel like the adults are back in the White House, and I feel that they're on the right side of things. Are they going to get everything right? Nope. Right. And are the Republicans going to fight them on every single thing? Yep. Right. But I think in some cases it'll be a difficult fight, because whether it's 1.9 trillion or 1.5, at the end of the day, people know that the dollars have to be put in to fight against COVID. People know the dollars have to be put in to really be a stimulus for people. $600 a month does not pay most people's rent, right? But 200 does, 2,000, I mean. And so they've got to figure that out. Now, does everybody need that stimulus? If you're making over 75,000, I would say not, right? So some of those things I think they could work through and make it something that has to happen. Small businesses have to be helped. And I think that Biden and Harris need to get out and get into the communities and say, we're fighting to get this for you, and your senators are fighting against it. What I feel like we don't do as Democrats or independents is like, folks got behind Trump, right? Whether they agreed with him, they liked him or not, there's something that they liked. They didn't like everything, right? But they're behind him. But on the Democrat side, we don't do that. And so I've already listened to people picking apart stuff that Biden hasn't done. I'm like, he's been in there a month, right? And I feel like in a month's time, he's come out swinging and putting a lot of things in place. Mm-hmm. So the thing of get behind and support, I feel like we have to start doing that. If we don't do it as a block, the way the Republicans do it as a block, then 2 years from now, they're going to turn the Congress and the Senate over. They will.
Yeah.
This is the time where we help everyone understand that getting them into the White House did not end the fight. That's just the beginning of the fight.
Absolutely.
And as much as people were trying to make that happen and get out the vote, again, we can't take our foot off the gas.
Yeah,
I agree.
Definitely. I heard a debate between teenagers and their grandparents today. And the teenagers, they were saying, well, you guys had Martin Luther King and all these, people to look toward to lead the movement. And I like what the grandparents said. They said, it was more urgent back then in the 60s. However, don't wait for a figurehead. Don't wait for somebody to lead you. If you want to see a change, be the change you want to see. I know that's a little cliche, but it's true. If you want to see change in your community, you need to spark that. You need to start having the conversations and start doing this work yourself to make change. And, as a community, we have to band together to see the changes we want made.
Yeah, most definitely. And to touch on a point that you made, Kimmy, part of the reason why we don't have a lot of that leadership like we had back then is because a lot of those people were quelched. Like the FBI infiltrated Malcolm X and his team, it infiltrated Martin Luther King, it infiltrated the Black Panther. Like every movement that we had back then was pretty much just like stomped out by our own government. And unfortunately, it's been hard for us to gain back that same kind of momentum that's as strong as that. And it really sucks, it really sucks sometimes, but I agree with you. I believe that if each of us does our part, however that looks, not everybody is going to be up there with, a microphone chanting and things like that. That's not everybody's lane, but somebody's lane might just be going door to door and encouraging people to vote, or, doing Facebook posts, or educating yourself, or running at, at the local level. Something that Sister Jane Ellen mentioned was about Vice President Kamala Harris and President Biden informing people about, their senators. And, people don't always think about local elections. Like they don't really pay attention to that as much as they do the presidential and all these other big ones, but the local elections affect the bigger stuff. So I think that education, we've been talking about that education needs to be out there more. And maybe that's an opportunity for the church to kind of bring that education to the masses intergenerationally. So there've been questions about Trump running again. Just the thought of that makes me kind of want to.
Nauseous.
Yeah, I really want to Earl right now.
You know, I would say to that, you know, if he does decide to, you know, to run again, that we just can't get complacent. Like, okay, well, you know, Biden won the last time, so we don't need to show up, you know, as support because at the end of the day, like Trump got like 70 million votes, you know, which is a lot, you know. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's like the second most.
Right.
So so we gotta, stay stay on the gas, keep our feet on the gas, and just, you know, continue to get people out. You know, just like you said, Jody, encourage people to get registered and, you know, create posts like, you know, if he does decide, you know, to run again, so that way he's not back. Because if he does go back, you know, the things that they've been trying to do, get things reversed, like, you know, with the immigrant kids, trying to reunite them back with their family. Like, we just don't want like another disaster like that, and just to be embarrassed again.
Yeah. Anybody else have thoughts on Trump 2024?
I was hoping we were done talking about him.
Yeah.
Just knowing that that conservative Republican group is meeting this weekend, and that many of the current sitting senators are there and they are speaking, and just a little bit I watched things that you're saying about Bernie Sanders and AOC and getting people riled up, right? And their keynote to end it all will be Donald Trump. So when have we in our history known of another former president who just lost and is already campaigning for the next election, and that the sitting senators are not in DC, they are in Florida pumping that up. And so that tells me it's not even about 4 years from now, it's 2 years from now, it's 1 year from now. And you said it when you said the local elections, because that's where social justice stuff happens, within your own school boards, within your own police commissions, all of those things. And to show that folks are involved and working to get the right people in locally will help us get the right people in nationally. But if we think we can wait until 2024, 2023 to start that work, they're working now, right? So, and while they're doing that, they're going to come back and put as many barriers in front of Biden as possible. So that's the part of we, I think, have to be very, very involved, and making sure that our neighbors and everyone else understands you're only going to benefit from this package that's going to get vaccine out there, that's going to get the medical care out there, that's going to get jobs out there, if you're making your senators do the right thing. And so that's where everybody has to be that activist to make those things happen, make sure that people are aware. Otherwise, you know, I hate to think this is the calm before another storm.
I know.
And I don't want that storm again.
No.
One of the things that I think about, though, is that all of the senators that are supporting Trump, I'm not even sure how much they even really support Trump, or that they're afraid of the base that he has created. So that's why they are rallying behind Trump, because they don't want to lose the base.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And I think that we are living in a generation of time where people who are holding these political offices have forgotten about the collective needs of the people, and they're just looking at their own needs.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
You know, so. But I agree with everything you said, and that we need to make sure that we're putting people in office who are looking at what the needs of the people are, and they're really thinking about their needs as opposed to their own personal political needs.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Well, let's hope that we don't have to hear about Trump anymore. I was really looking forward to like him being out of the news and all of that, but he still lingers. He's just like I was going to make a comparison, but that is not nice. Sister Jane Ellen, you mentioned the vaccine, which has been a very hot topic.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of, uncertainty, controversy, whatever you want to call it, around the vaccine and the need for it. So I am a public health person. That is my background, and my education has been in public health. So I'm always for interventions that will affect the health of the community at large. But I'm gonna be honest with you, when it first came out, I was like, that's too soon. I'm not taking it. Nope, don't come near me with that.
I said I would be the last person in line. I was adamant.
Yes.
Right? But that's the part about educating yourself and becoming informed. So I am registered, and I'm wondering why I still don't have my date to get the vaccine yet. Because as you learn more, as I'm talking to people, whether it's people in our church, people in my sorority, people in my family who've already had it, people who I work with, right? And here's what I know. Having had a brother who passed away from COVID, the risk of getting COVID is far greater than the risk of that vaccine. Yeah. And so I get the flu vaccine every year, right? And they have to change that every year because the flu continues to mutate. And so the more you listen, you realize that's what COVID is. Coronaviruses are. The cold mutates. Colds aren't always the same across the board. They continue to mutate. And as these new variants come out, same way we get new variants of the flu, they have to change that vaccine. They're changing this vaccine. And so I think for us to get to, because it's not get back to, because whatever we're going to get to is not going to be the way it was in February 2020.
Yes.
Get to is going to require that the majority of us are vaccinated. And look what's happened. Because we are inside, right? Because we're not in large gatherings in the church, this year, the flu essentially did not exist. And it typically exists because everybody's out and about. And most people during flu season, many people don't get the vaccine. So people get the flu. But this year, because of the fact we're inside, you essentially tamped it down, right? Which is all they've been asking us to do, to tamp down the COVID. But folks didn't want to do that. And as I listen to the scientists, as I listen to the medical professionals, and again, people in my family, people in my church, people in my sorority who've gotten it, so like I said, I signed up January 15th, and I'm like, what?
Oh, wow.
I'm actually signed up in 2 states, right? Because I'm like, whoever's first.
Yeah.
So I live here in New Jersey, and I'm signed up, and I'm in Group 1B Group 1C based on my age and health. And I'm like, but in Maryland, where I work, New York or Pennsylvania, based on my age and other things, I would be in Group 1A. So it'd be nice when all the states are on the same level. But also where I work, being an educator is prioritized. And so my name is on that list. So whoever calls me first, I'm either driving to Maryland or I'm driving somewhere here in New Jersey. But I think it's that important. And knowing even after you're vaccinated, you're still going to wear a face covering.
Yeah.
And as I've heard Fauci and others say, into 2022. So I am stacked up. In fact, when I'm out now, I double mask.
Yeah, same.
They say with the variants, you need to do that. And I have figured out with the blue or the black surgical mask, and then a certain cloth mask, I can talk, I can do all of those things. So that's the other thing, finding the right thing.
Yeah.
And then cover your mouth and your nose, please. People who have it down here, I don't get that.
Yeah.
You're still putting yourself at risk and you're putting others at risk. But I think the vaccine is the way that schools will be able to open back up, is the way that we can start to get back out. But it's going to take a lot more people getting on board. I am encouraged because under the current administration, things are rolling a lot quicker because we now have We're now seeing that there's an administration that believes in it, knows it, and is pushing it that way. And the manufacturers are being more encouraged to get it out. And I think we will have 100 million shots in within 100 days, which will just, to me, be phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I have to admit, I was waiting when the vaccines first came out. I was waiting for Melania and Donald and Lil Barron to take it first. I was waiting on them go first, but now
Lil Barron.
But now I am more willing. I am more willing as I've educated myself and I've listened to the doctors and and you know, I'm much more willing to do that. But I've also, for me, my wife doesn't let me go anywhere. You know, I can't even go to the Walmart anymore. So, you know, but I am in the process of getting my vaccinations. And I think, but I guess part of my question is, where do you think the Black community stands on the subject of vaccinations now? Do you think that we are, for the majority of us, are trusting this vaccination and trusting enough to move forward, or do you think they're like me and saying, "Lil Barron, you go first"?
3 months ago, absolutely not, right? But I think as we see, as they're showing within Philadelphia, showing different areas, and showing more Black folks who are getting it, right? As you see more Black doctors who are talking about it, as we have an administration that's more positive about it, that is encouraging. I think when you see things about the positivity rate and the rate of infection has dropped in Philly by 80%, right? In just a little over a month, that is encouraging. And so I think there's still work to be done, but that's the part of continually getting the message out there, because I'm feeling and I'm seeing. I was one of those folks. I'm like, right. And I consider myself educated, but you know, the message that was coming out and the way it was being presented was not encouraging to me.
Yeah.
So as that continues to get out to more people, and there will always be the people who are anti-vaccine. That existed even before now. Yes. Right. And so that remains a challenge, but I feel more hopeful for our Black community to get out there and get the vaccine.
Most definitely. Kimmy or Kevin, you got anything on that?
No, the only thing I had was that I was with everybody else. You know, let me see enough people get it. Once I see enough people get it, especially people that I know, it's like, all right, cool, like I'm good. You know, one of my cousins, you know, she took the vaccine. You know, I was looking for, make sure like she ain't had no extra superpowers or nothing like that, or no deformities, and you know, she's good. She don't got an extra tail or nothing. So, you know, that just made me like more confident. Like, all right, well, you know, maybe I can take it when it's my turn.
Yeah.
Same. I was like, I'll wait for a few people I know to get it first, and go through my own verification process. You know, but I'm confident in the vaccine. I do know a few people who have received it, and I mean, they're doing well. They weren't exposed to COVID or anything, but you know, it's a good precaution to take.
Absolutely. And you know, the vaccine reduces your chance of having a life-threatening reaction to potentially getting COVID. So for everybody who's, you know, wants to get back to church, wants to get back to, I shouldn't say get back to, but get out of whatever this is and get over to something else, please go try to get that vaccine, especially if you're eligible. You know, hopefully we'll have new ones coming out. So as those come out, then there'll be more opportunity for us to get it. But if your job or, you know, wherever you're working is offering to get you in there, if you're in that group 1A in New Jersey, please go ahead, sign up. And, you know, they're giving it out at pharmacies. There's mega sites. There's a mega site that opened up at like Morristown Mall. It's it's out there. There is a wait because I did sign up also and I haven't heard back. But please get your name on that list so we can all protect ourselves and be safe.
Yeah, Johnson & Johnson was approved today. That's
it was approved?
That's approved today. They say AstraZeneca is next. So that's just going to add to more vaccine being available in the pipeline, which means younger ages will be eligible sooner than you think. So I would go ahead and register because as it gets out there the way it is, it's going to definitely pick up. I mean, right now with Biden, they've got the National Guard out there helping to administer it to get it to as many people as possible. Because they also know with these variants that people need to be protected even sooner. So they're trying to waste no time with that. So I'm very hopeful about this.
For those of you who want the information, you can go to covidvaccine.nj.gov. That's where you can find out information about what group you're in. You might not know, like, what are you talking about with groups? The way that they're distributing the vaccine is according to certain criteria, and they've separated us into different groups based on that criteria, like age, health factors, occupation, things like that. So you can go to covidvaccine.nj.gov to get more information for those of you who are in New Jersey. And if you're tuning in from out of state, I'm sure if you go to your state's health department website, there should be something there about COVID. Most state health departments do have a COVID specific website or link or tab. So please check it out. All right. Any final thoughts from the panel before we start to wrap it up here on current events, hopes, dreams, thoughts? No.
I'm just glad Trump is gone. At least out of the White House.
Agreed.
Second. My hope is Biden needs to get his act together because he straight shot down that 50K with the student loan. So hopefully he can get his act together, change his mind when he runs for a second term. So
yeah, we didn't even touch on that. That's a whole no.
He said absolutely not.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to everybody on the panel. We hope you all got something from this. You got some education, and we hope that we can continue to lead in that way with current events, giving you all the education you need and hearing from so many of the wonderful members of our church. So thank you all. Have a good night. Thanks for tuning in.